Well, hello there. Welcome. Come on in, sit down, pull up a chair, make yourself comfortable. I know that kind of sitting down, getting ready for a big test, which I hear you have coming up pretty soon, can be really a little nerve wracking. It can cause a lot of anxiety, and a lot of people are scared of the test, the big tests. Some people are just afraid of any kind of test because they think it's a judgment on them that somehow they're not going to measure up. And I want to help you today. Your teachers have asked me to help you to kind of get ready for this coming up big test and give you some help, some tips on how you can um, kind of put all the fear, all the unknown, all the worry, set that aside and give you some good techniques, some good ways of thinking about tests to move you through the tests and do really, really well. And to feel good about what you've accomplished. And that's really what we want to do. So let me go ahead and start us with session one, what to expect. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the big test is what is the big test? And if it's something I don't know a lot about, I mean, you only take this once a year between third grade and maybe eighth grade, and then you do it one more time in the 11th grade when you're in high school, and that's it. So you don't get a lot of practice. It's not something you're very familiar with. And the unknown, that unexpected, can be really, really scary. And I understand that. I remember when I was a young child, probably about 7 or 8 years old, my job was to take the garbage out. I had to dump the garbage from the kitchen, and it was all the way downstairs in the dark basement. And I had to dump it in the big garbage bin down there and then take it back up and put a new garbage bag in. Well, we lived in a really old house. And so that staircase that goes down into the basement was in the back of the house, and it was really kind of creepy. You stepped on the stairs and it was creak, creak, creak. It was like horrible. There was a bunch of daddy long leg spiders all over the place too. And I was freaking out. I did not know what to do because I didn't know what was down in that dark basement. There was no light I could turn on. So I would sneak down the stairs, with my eye like, I didn't know what was there, go down the steps. And then I saw the garbage can right there. And it's like, ooh, I just have to be very fast, open the lid, dump the garbage, put on the lid, and turn around and then run back up. And I can get up the stairs. But as I'm turning around, I dump the garbage, I turn around and get ready to go back up. The problem was that I got even more scared. Why? Well, it was because I didn't know what was behind me. And I thought that some boogie monster or something like that was behind me. And so I'd be like walking up the stairs, and I was scared to death. And by the time I got to the top of the stairs, trying not to rush, but trying to run, I just was in tears and right? It was just horrible. Why? Was there anything down there? No. Was anything going to happen to me down there? No. So why was I so afraid? Mostly because I didn't know what was down there. So I have a feeling that many of you come to this big test that we do every year, and you're a little bit like, I don't know what's going to be on the test. And I don't know what's going to happen to me if I don't do good. And so you cave. You are not confident. You're not comfortable. And we want to change that a little bit. So how are we going to do that? Well, part of it, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the tests. The type of test that you're going to take, there's two categories, two different kinds. There's one for math and there's one for reading, writing, English Language Arts, ELA. And the first kind of test is what they call a computer adaptive test, CAT. Those are relatively easy. Those are just, things that you're used to, and you just fill things out and you go through it, and it's not that big of a deal. The ones that tend to kind of make us ooh are the performance tasks. And the performance task that is particularly scary for many people is the writing performance task, the ELA performance task. And why is that? Well, partly it's because they're all essay based. That means you got to do a big essay. You got to write a lot. You read these articles and things, and then you got to write about them. And a lot of people are not very comfortable with writing. So what things are they going to look for? When you look for, how do I do well on this test? You want to know, well, what are the graders going to be looking for? Well, part of what they're looking for are these things. They're going to look for 5-paragraph structure. That means your paper, your answer, your essay is going to be approximately 5 paragraphs, if you can do that. Some of you who are younger, maybe you can only do 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs, and we're going to talk about that later. But they're looking for a 5-paragraph structure. Another thing that they're looking for is they're looking to have you read and understand 2 or more sources. That can be articles, it can be videos that you got to watch, it can be parts of books or parts of maybe even parts of journals or things like that. I mean, maybe even parts of textbooks, like a science book or something. So you're going to have to read and get through the reading and know what you need to pull out of the reading in order to write about it, right? The other one is that you have to cite your sources, meaning if you want to use information that's given to you in these articles and videos and things like that, you want to use that to make your writing stronger. And so that's called citation, or citing your sources. And I know I have high schoolers that still can't cite very well. That's not something they do very often. But I'm going to help you in this series of videos to learn how to do that and do it relatively well. Even for you younger people who are like in the 3rd or 4th grade, you will learn how to do this too. It's not that hard once you understand and know what to expect, right? Okay. The last thing that they're going to be looking for is that these sort of writing questions, writing assignments, they are going to have different kinds, different flavors. One might be asking you to write a story, your own story from the articles. Maybe there's a baby bear in some of these articles, and the articles are all about hibernation, how it goes to sleep in the winter. And so it might ask you to write a story about a little bear who is going to hibernate and what it's like for him or her to hibernate. And so you'll write your own little story that's based on that. That's called a narrative. You're telling the story. You're narrating the story. So if they tell you, write a story, there you go. That's a narrative. The other one is an informative. You're giving me information. You're being the teacher, sort of, and you're writing like a teacher might talk to a class on a certain topic. This is a baby bear. The baby bears hibernate. This is where they hibernate. You're giving me information. That's informative. When you get a little bit higher, though, they might ask you to write a persuasive paper. You're persuading me. You're trying to convince me, the reader, that your point of view is correct. It's accurate. For instance, they may ask you to write a paper on whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Now, if you are like I am, you will say absolutely never, 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 never. Pineapple does not belong on pizza. Ooh, bleh, gross. And I will write a paper that will try to convince you that my opinion is correct. That's persuasive. I'm trying to persuade you. Now, this is where people get kind of crazy when it comes to persuasive and argumentative, and that is well, what's the difference between the two? Well, persuasive is I'm trying to convince you, the reader. Argument, how many people does it take to argue? Do you argue with yourself? Do you, pepperoni belongs on pizza? No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Is that how you have an argument? You have an argument with yourself? No. An argument requires 2 sides, at least. There may be more, but at least 2 sides. One side would say pineapple on pizza tastes really good. It kind of mixes the sweet of the pineapple with the pepper spicy of the pepperoni. Maybe that's their argument. And so it really is good. That's their side. Well, the other side will say, no, I don't like pineapple on my pizza. I don't like the sweet. It tastes too sweet. It's not good. So you see how the two go against one another? It's kind of like I'm boxing you and you're boxing me. That's argumentative. Argumentative is going to be like persuasive. You're going to try to convince me in your argumentative paper that your side, no pineapple. That side's the winner. That side is the one you really want. But argumentative means I have to show the other side's argument as well and then beat it. I have to talk about that side. I need both sides in my argument, okay? So those are some pretty advanced kind of writing though, and I don't expect you, if you're a younger student, to have to do that type of thing. But I just want you to be familiar with it. I want you to know what's in the basement, what's on these tests, what's going to happen with the test, so that it's not scary anymore, okay? So how do they score this? Well, they look at those things and they score your writing on a level of 1, which is you didn't hit a lot of those things. You didn't do a lot of the things that they're looking for. 2, well, you hit a lot of them. You're doing much better, but you still have a lot of room to improve. You can do a lot better, but 2 is better than 1. So let's say you got a 2. Maybe you end up with a 3. You did some really, really good work in several of these areas, really strong, but there's still a couple that need to be polished up a little bit stronger. And so that's why it's a 3 and not a 4. 4 is like, woohoo, look at you. You are awesome. You have done all that we expect you to do. So that's how they will grade you. So what do you do to make it easier to go from a 1 or a 2 or a 2 or a 3 or that you can kind of like move up a little bit? How do you do that? How do you make it easier? Because, so many people look at the basement and go, I can't go down there. No way. That's what they do with tests. Oh, that's a test. Ew. But it's not that bad. Let's take a look at what has to be done. The first thing that has to happen is you got to fix this. You got to get a right mindset, a right way of thinking about it. This picture is my daughter when she was little. So now she's just kind of grown up. But she used to love to play with bugs and snails and toads and all this sort of stuff. And I know this says froggy, but it really is a toady. So what she loved to do is she loved to pick up the little toady and kiss the little toady. And for her, that was lovely. It was wonderful. It was so much fun. This was a beautiful living little creature. And she just wanted to pour her love on that little toady froggy. I, as a parent, are, oh no, don't put your lips on that warty looking gross thing. Ugh, don't do that. So my mindset was no. That's scary. That's gross. That's nasty. Hers was, oh, but I just love this little creature and want to give it love. Her mindset was not like mindset. The way she saw the frog or the toad and the way I saw the toad were totally different. We need to change the way we see the test and feel about the test and perceive the test. Or do we want to pick up the test and we want to love the little kissy on the test? Is that how we feel? Or are we, yuck, gross, ugh, I can't do it? Well, of course, no, I don't want you to get to the test and sit there and start kissing your test. That's not what I'm asking. But I want you to start thinking about it as it's just a test. It's just a thing. We take tests throughout our entire lives. It's not just in school. I still take tests. I take tests to do this job. I take a test to be able to drive a car or to become a plumber or to do any kind of work. There's always tests. We can't be afraid of those, okay? Instead, what I want you to have as a mindset is I want you to think of like those old Roman gladiators that would fight, and you're just going to conquer and put your foot on top of the test and crush the test with your foot because you are mightier than the test. That's a good mindset. You go into the test going, I'm going to beat you. That's fine. That's a great place to start. So get your mind into a place where you are more than a conqueror. So what kind of habits are true conquerors, or do true conquerors have? You're going to beat this test. How are you going to do it? What are you going to do to start getting ready for that? Well, one thing I want you to do is I want you to focus on leveling up. You see this guy here with his, like this? He doesn't have really big muscles. Can you imagine if he went into a gym, worked one time on his little dumbbells, and then looked in the mirror and saw this other gentleman that's standing there going, and he's got like rippling muscles everywhere. He's huge. Can you imagine how that might make him feel if he went, well, I don't look like that guy. That's not the goal. That can't be the goal. It takes time to build and bulk and get strong. So should you. You should take your time to build stronger skills to do better at this type of a test. So all I want you to do is look at, can I do a little bit better? Can I grow? Can I go from, little muscles that drip underneath and kind of wiggle, like in the cartoons, to I can do something like this. This would be cool. If I could do this at my age, I would love it, but I can't. I'm just too old. I'm trying though. What's another way? Other than just growing and getting a little bit better than you were last time? Well, the other thing is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice always makes perfect. And you can do this at home anytime between now and the time you take your test. You can go to the website and they have little practice sessions that you can just log into the practice session and see for yourself what is on the test. What kinds of questions would they probably ask you for your grade level? And you can be, okay, I can do that. And you can practice. And maybe your mom or your dad can take a look. Maybe even your PLT would be happy to work with you and say, oh, wow, you did a good job, but let's try to tweak this a little bit. That's part of what you can do is practice, okay? And I'll have a whole video series on how to do that and show you how to do it, okay? What's another way? Well, the other one is to learn strategies. You got to have strategies to build yourself up. Certain plans. You got to have a game plan to know how you're going to get there. And that is what we're going to talk about in our next video, is learning writing strategies. How are we going to attack? How are we going to conquer this ELA performance writing task? And that's next time. So go get a snack and come right back and we'll do session number 2. Woohoo. Okay? Ready to learn? All right. See you soon.